Have you ever placed that waving lucky cat by your front door? Thinking it would bring money and lucky energy into your life. But instead, everything felt kind of flat? Less clients, less good news, even less visitors? I'm not saying the cat's cursed. But what if the way it's placed is quietly messing with your Feng Shui energy? This isn't about superstition. It's about how one tiny symbol, if placed wrong, can flip your home's energy from welcoming wealth to quietly rejecting it. And trust me, Jessica found out the hard way. She had no idea that her little gold cat was waving money away instead of calling it in. She thought she was doing everything right. Clean space, good vibes, lucky decor. But behind that cute little paw was a silent Feng Shui mistake, blocking the very flow she was hoping to attract. Jessica runs a cozy handmade shop out of her front room. It started as a dream. And like many of us, she believed in symbols, especially ones tied to good luck and money flow. But after she placed her lucky cat near the door, her customers slowed down. The room felt heavier, and something just didn't feel welcoming anymore. She blamed the economy. She even thought maybe she just wasn't trying hard enough. Until one simple Feng Shui shift changed it all. If this kind of wisdom speaks to you, if you've ever felt like you're doing everything to stay afloat, and it still isn't flowing, thank you for being here. Feel free to hit like, subscribe, or even drop a comment below. It helps YouTube know you're part of this quiet shift. So let's start from the moment Jessica bought that little cat. Because this wasn't just about decor. It was her first big Feng Shui mistake. And the energy never flowed the same again. Sometimes, what you believe is bringing in wealth might actually be holding it at the door. In Feng Shui, energy doesn't respond to what you mean to do. It responds to what your space is actually doing. And sometimes, the two are quietly at war. Jessica loved that little golden cat. She found it at an Asian market during a weekend walk with her daughter. It sat on the shelf, arm waving endlessly, like it knew it was meant for her. She thought, "This is it. This is my lucky charm." A symbol of welcome, wealth, and hope. She brought it home, wiped the shelf by the door, and gave it the spotlight, right next to a mini candle and a plant clipping in a jar. That corner looked cute. It looked intentional. But over the next few weeks, something didn't feel right. Jessica didn't know how to explain it. Sales slowed. Her house felt stale. People stopped dropping by unannounced like they used to. The energy that once flowed in with laughter and conversation started feeling more like quiet air sitting still. She thought it was just bad timing. But deep down, she started questioning, is it me or is something blocking all this energy? In Feng Shui, what you place and where you place it creates a Rippleyan energetic current, especially near the entryway, where qi, energy, first enters the home. The lucky cat, also called Maneki Neko, is meant to attract luck, wealth, and customers. But if it's pointed the wrong way or placed in the wrong sector of your space, it can flip its effect completely. Jessica had unknowingly placed it facing out the door, its little paw waving toward the street. To her, it was welcoming energy in. But to Feng Shui energy flow, it was waving money and people away. She'd accidentally told wealth, "Thanks, but you can keep going." This is what Feng Shui calls a reversal loop, when intention and energy direction aren't aligned. And when that happens near your front door, The whole flow of your home starts to feel tired, confused, and quietly blocked. Jessica had built her business from the kitchen table. She wasn't just selling candles, she was selling a piece of her time, her effort, her hope. Every customer felt like a small yes from the universe. So when people stopped showing up, it wasn't just about the money. It was personal. She started doubting herself. Was she doing something wrong? Was she losing her touch? Was the world moving on without her? And all this time, that little waving cat kept smiling by the door. Still, polite, silent. She didn't want to believe it could be that. Because if even your symbol of luck turns on you, what can you count on? It's like standing at your front porch waving at friends. But your body language says, "Don't come in." Or handing someone a gift with one hand while gently pushing them back with the other. You don't mean to confuse them. But the signal is loud and clear. In Jessica's case, her little cat was doing exactly that, sending out good intentions with a confused direction. And the universe? It responds to direction more than decoration. Jessica didn't learn this from a book. She found out through a random YouTube rabbit hole about Feng Shui energy flow around doorways. One video explained how certain symbols, especially moving or battery-powered ones, can repel energy if they're aimed outward. That's when she walked to the door, looked at her little cat, and realized its tiny paw wasn't welcoming her energy in. It was sending it right back out into the street. She turned it around, then moved it slightly inward, so it now waved into the space. And she noticed something weird. The air felt lighter. A friend popped by later that week, first time in months. The room somehow felt awake again. Jessica didn't throw the cat away. She just moved it with new awareness. Now it sits further in, at the wealth corner of her entry room. She placed it on a red cloth with a coin bowl beside it. And this time, it doesn't just look cute. It feels aligned. She also started adding small touches, lighting a candle in the evenings, letting fresh air in each morning, and saying quietly, "Welcome to this space. May money flow in with ease." Simple rituals, but they helped reset her belief. Because Feng Shui isn't about big changes. It's about intentional flow. About making sure your home isn't whispering the opposite of what your heart is asking for. And yeah, she still teases herself about it. I was literally waving cash goodbye every day without knowing it. Now, every time someone new visits, she watches them smile at the cat as it waves from inside the room. And in her head, she thinks, "You better wave at the cash too." When your space tells a mixed story, money hears the confusion before it hears the call. The room had felt flat, like air stuck in a jar, but after that one shift, it was like energy started breathing again. True luck isn't loud. It listens to where your space leads it. Guess I was feng shuiing backwards. At least now I know my cat's finally on my side. Not all things meant to hold wealth actually help it flow. In feng shui, money needs movement, not just a place to sit and wait. And sometimes, the very thing you use to collect luck becomes the thing that quietly stops it. Jessica thought a money jar would help her stay focused. It wasn't fancy, just a glass mason jar with a gold lid. She wrote abundance on it with a silver marker and dropped her first coin in like it was a wish. The jar sat on her living room shelf, right beside her shipping table. She figured it would be a magnet for money, a visual reminder to call in wealth. But weeks passed, and the jar stayed mostly empty. Each time she walked past it, a little voice whispered, "Still nothing." And that whisper didn't just stay on the shelf. It started creeping into her mindset, into her sails, into the energy of the room itself. The air felt a little heavier. Her hands felt slower when packing orders. Even her favorite playlist didn't lift the space like it used to. In Feng Shui, wealth isn't about storage. It's about circulation. Money is a form of Qian energy that moves, responds, dances. A sealed jar, especially one that's clear and nearly empty, sends a subtle signal to the space around it. There's not enough. And when you walk past that jar every day, you're reminded of what's missing, not what's flowing. That's what Jessica didn't realize. By trying to capture abundance in a jar, she had accidentally created a symbol of stuck prosperity. And worse, she placed it on a high shelf, too far out of reach, too close to forgotten. In Feng Shui, the money corner, far back left of your home, thrives on movement, intention, and connection. Not silence, not dust. Jessica was trying so hard to manifest. She listened to the podcasts. She wrote down affirmations. She tracked every sale in a color-coded spreadsheet. That jar was supposed to be her anchor. A visual, yes. But instead, it became a mirror, reflecting back all the quiet doubts she was too tired to say aloud. She didn't want to admit it, but every time she saw it sitting there with two lonely quarters, it made her feel small, like the jar was keeping score. And she was losing. This wasn't about coins. This was about hope, and how easy it is to tie your self-worth to something that sits still, instead of something that flows. Think of it like a garden hose. If you leave it twisted, even the strongest water pressure won't get through. Or like leaving your front door wide open, but blocking the walkway with boxes. Jessica's jar had the right label, but the wrong energy. It was meant to welcome wealth, but it ended up telling the universe, "I'm holding on to lack." Jessica's friend Carla runs a nail salon and has a Feng Shui consultant visit once a year. She mentioned how empty containers in key zones, like the wealth corner, can unintentionally tell energy, "We're waiting, we're lacking, we're stuck." That hit hard. Jessica went home and took the jar down. She poured the few coins into a small red envelope and tucked it into her wallet instead. Then she did something new. She placed a small bowl in that same corner, filled it with coins, a dollar bill folded in thirds, and a note, "Money moves through me and returns multiplied." No more sealing the flow. No more staring at emptiness. Now, she was feeding the space with movement. Jessica now lights a small candle near that bowl. Every Friday morning, her own quiet abundance ritual. No chanting, no pressure. Just a moment to say, "I welcome wealth and I trust the flow." She also added a small bamboo plant nearby, a living symbol of steady growth. And when she walks past that corner now, there's no voice whispering nothing. There's just calm and a quiet yes. Because in Feng Shui, energy listens to what you repeat. And for Jessica, that meant turning her home from a shrine of scarcity into a dance of circulation. Of course, she still keeps that jar. It holds sewing buttons now. And when her daughter asked, "Why don't you use it for coins anymore?" Jessica just laughed and said, "Turns out money likes its own room to move around. Wealth doesn't wait in corners. It visits places that feel ready to let it move." The shelf used to feel heavy. Now the whole room breathes lighter, like it finally exhaled. Don't just hold money, host it. Guess I was trying to feng shui a savings account in a pickle jar. If this moment hit a nerve? If you've ever tried to hold on to wealth so tightly it stopped showing up, this space is for you. Hit the like button if this feels familiar. Comment if you've had your own version of a money jar mistake. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got more feng shui shifts coming that'll make you feel the difference. Feng shui isn't just about what you place. It's about what energy it still carries. Because sometimes, the most beautiful objects in your home are holding on to moments that no longer serve your flow. And when energy gets trapped in memory, money can get trapped with it. There was a photo frame Jessica had kept on her desk for years. A perfect beach, Shother and her ex-husband holding hands, laughing mid-walk as the wind caught her hat. The frame was clean, heavy, silver-edged. It looked classy. It felt familiar. She never gave it much thought. It was just there. Always had been. But during one weekend, while rearranging to refresh her desk, she moved the frame to dust underneath and suddenly felt something shift in her chest. Not a big emotional breakdown, just a strange weight, like she had accidentally opened a drawer full of things she thought she'd thrown out years ago. And the weirdest part? That weight didn't go away. It started showing up in other places. Fewer orders. More tech glitches. A weird heaviness in her creative flow. It was like something invisible had hit the brakes. In feng shui, objects hold vibration. Photos, especially, are strong, energetic anchors. They freeze a moment in time and repeat that energy into your space day after day. The photo on Jessica's desk was stuck joy. It carried a happiness she no longer lived in. And while the memory was sweet, the energy was frozen, static, unresolved. And worse, it sat in her career zone, the space, tied to purpose, cash flow, and forward motion. That means the energy she was asking to move her forward was busy looping an old chapter. In feng shui terms, this created an emotional bottleneck where energy couldn't move past what was no longer true. It wasn't the picture that was the problem. It was the message it kept sending. Let's stay right here. Jessica had moved on from that relationship. Or at least she thought she had. Divorce papers signed. New routines. New goals. But there was a part of her that hadn't made the emotional exit. Not fully. And every time she sat at that desk to work, that frozen moment stared back at her. A reminder of what used to be possible. What she used to feel like. Before she had to rebuild. It didn't hurt like it once did. It just lingered. Quietly. Heavily. Until it started pulling her current joy into that same old loop. It's like trying to run a new program on a computer that keeps opening an old file on startup. No matter what you do, it slows everything down. Or like putting fresh flowers in a vase that still smells like the last bouquet. No one sees it, but the space feels it. That photo wasn't harming her, but it wasn't helping her move. And in feng shui, your space can either call forward the future or keep pressing repeat on the past. Jessica didn't need a guru to tell her the frame was off. It hit her during a YouTube deep dive on Feng Shui and memory placement. One expert mentioned how certain still images, placed in areas meant for movement like career, money, or health zones, can create an unconscious energetic freeze. The next morning, Jessica took the photo off the desk. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. She wrapped it gently, stored it in a memory box, and placed a new image instead. Her daughter holding a sparkler, eyes full of light. And with that one swap, her desk felt different, brighter, like someone had opened a window. Jessica didn't throw away the past. She just gave it a better seat, one that honored memory without leading the future. In place of the frame, she added a small glass prism to catch the light during afternoon hours. Every time sunlight hit it, it sent little rainbows across her wall. Little reminders that joy can still come, but in new forms. She also wrote on a sticky note, "Create from now," and taped it under her keyboard. And maybe it was coincidence, but orders started picking up again. Her newsletter got more clicks. And one day, out of nowhere, she got invited to speak on a podcast about solo entrepreneurship and healing. Maybe it was all timing, or maybe the energy had just finally caught up. Now, when people ask about her desk setup, Jessica laughs and says, "It's 90% chaos and 10% rainbow management." But deep down, she knows that old frame had quietly held more than a photo, and letting it go made room for something better. When old joy blocks new flow, even money starts to tiptoe. The space felt polite, but not alive. Now it feels like breath on a fresh page. Release doesn't mean forgetting, it means making space for the next yes. Who knew a silver frame could block more cash than a broken PayPal link? Not all blockages in Feng Shui come from clutter or chaos. Sometimes it's the stillness that holds you back. Because energy doesn't just get stuck in mess. It gets trapped in corners that never move, never shift, never breathe. There was a floating shelf in Jessica's hallway. Neutral wood, clean lines, held 5 small items neatly spaced, always dusted. A dried flower, a ceramic bird, a thrifted hourglass, a glass box with old coins, and a photo of a lighthouse on a gray coast. The shelf looked beautiful, balanced, intentional, but Jessica never touched it. Not since the day she styled it over 3 years ago. And lately, she noticed something strange. Every time she walked past it, she felt a tiny drop in her mood, like a light dimmed slightly, or a voice whispered, "Still here." At first, she brushed it off. But that same whisper started showing up in other places, like her inbox drying up, clients ghosting at the last step, and a weird sense that her home felt more like a showroom than a living space. In Feng Shui, stillness isn't always peace. Sometimes it's stuck chi-energy that's gone stale, especially in transitional spaces like hallways, where flow is everything. Jessica's shelf had become a static energy pocket. Nothing on it moved. Nothing shifted. The objects were decorative but emotionally disconnected. The coins weren't wealth activators, they were leftovers. The photo wasn't inspiring, it was just gray. The hourglass had never been flipped. And the ceramic bird? Pretty, but lifeless. In Feng Shui terms, this created a dead zone, quiet anchor of no motion. right in the middle of a space that should be guiding energy forward. And when energy hits a place that feels like time has stopped, it slows down everything it touches: money, momentum, and lucky flow. Jessica didn't build that shelf out of joy. She built it during a time when she was trying to hold it together, back when everything felt fragile, and she needed one spot in the house to feel finished, even if nothing else did. It had served its purpose, but she wasn't in that place anymore. And somehow, the shelf kept her tied to a version of herself who was always just managing. Every time she walked past it, her body remembered that tightness, that quiet need to stay still, so nothing could fall apart. She didn't realize the shelf wasn't just still. It was holding stillness. Even now, when she was ready to move, imagine trying to dance in a room where one corner is frozen solid. No matter how free your body feels, you'll always move around that cold spot, carefully, subconsciously. Or picture a book you finished, but never put back on the shelf. It stays open on the same page, and you pass by it every day, as if the story hasn't ended. Jessica's shelf was that page, nicely framed, but no longer alive. She only figured it out after listening to a Feng Shui podcast while folding laundry. The host mentioned zones of energetic pause, spaces where decor never changes and energy starts to flatten. It clicked instantly. She grabbed a small tray, cleared the shelf completely, and wiped it down, not just the dust, but the memory. Then she replaced just 2 items: a fresh eucalyptus bundle and a candle she lights on Sunday evenings. No more gray photo. No more old coins. Just space, intention, and breath. And within a week, 2 of her old clients reached out. One even sent a referral. The hallway felt lighter, like something had unpaused. Jessica now treats that shelf like a ritual space, not a static display. Each season, she swaps something in or out. Sometimes it's a crystal. Sometimes a quote card. Sometimes nothing at all, just clean space and open flow. But the key is, it lives. It breathes. She now walks past that hallway and feels a small lift, like the air is helping her move forward, instead of silently asking her to stand still. Because Feng Shui isn't about getting it perfect. It's about making sure the energy you hold matches the life you're ready to live. Of course, she still keeps the ceramic bird. It lives in a drawer now, resting until it decides what it wants to be, she jokes. And when her daughter caught her lighting the candle on the shelf one evening, she asked, "What's the occasion?" Jessica smiled and said, "Just making space for money to find its way." Money doesn't just follow effort, it follows where your energy feels free to move. The hallway used to feel like a frozen pause. Now it feels like an exhale between steps. A still shelf holds still dreams. Let it move, and everything else will too. Turns out, the only thing that needed redecorating was the energy I forgot to notice. In Feng Shui, even the right symbol can go wrong if it enters your space at the wrong time. Because energy doesn't just care what you place. It listens to when, why, and how it enters your home. And sometimes, what you think will unlock wealth actually locks you into an old energetic chapter. Jessica had always admired vision boards. She finally made one. It was a quiet night in January. New year, fresh hope. She lit a candle, pulled out her scissors, and started cutting out everything she wanted to manifest. A photo of a cash stack, a beach house, a woman working from a laptop near a window, and in the center a golden infinity symbol with the word wealth in bold. She framed it, put it above her desk, and told herself, "This is it." But by March, everything felt heavier. Not in a dramatic way, just off. Slow business. Mismatched opportunities. Money felt like it was always about to arrive but didn't. And somehow, sitting at her desk became exhausting. The room started feeling thick, like the energy was waiting for something to be finished but wasn't. In Feng Shui, symbols carry energy, but they also carry intention stamps, the invisible imprint of where you were when you placed them. Jessica had made that board during a moment of desperation, right after her biggest sale of the season had fallen through. She'd been feeling defeated, uncertain, lost, and while the board was full of abundance images, the energy behind it said, "Please fix this. I'm scared." That's what anchored itself into her home. Not the photos, but the panic. In Feng Shui terms, that board became an emotional timestamp sealed into her career zone, repeating the moment her energy collapsed, while asking the universe for wealth. Instead of attracting money, it kept bringing back the feeling of needing it. Jessica didn't realize how much fear she had layered into her wealth vision. She thought she was setting goals, but what she was really doing was trying to bandage a crack in her energy with pretty pictures. And every day she sat beneath that board, her body remembered that moment, the night she made it, holding her breath, asking the universe to please just help. That memory lived in the space, and it replayed every time she glanced up and saw that bold gold word staring back at her, wealth. A word that now felt more like a taunt than a promise. In Feng Shui, even the right symbol can go wrong if it enters your space at the wrong time, because energy doesn't just care what you place. It listens to when, why, and how it enters your home. And sometimes, what you think will unlock wealth actually locks you into an old energetic chapter. Jessica had always admired vision boards. She finally made one. It was a quiet night in January. New year, fresh hope. She lit a candle, pulled out her scissors, and started cutting out everything she wanted to manifest. A photo of a cash stack, a beach house, a woman working from a laptop near a window, and in the center a golden infinity symbol with the word wealth in bold. She framed it, put it above her desk, and told herself, "This is it." But by March, everything felt heavier. Not in a dramatic way, just off. Slow business. Mismatched opportunities. Money felt like it was always about to arrive but didn't. And somehow, sitting at her desk became exhausting. The room started feeling thick, like the energy was waiting for something to be finished but wasn't. In Feng Shui, symbols carry energy, but they also carry intention stamps, the invisible imprint of where you were when you placed them. Jessica had made that board during a moment of desperation, right after her biggest sale of the season had fallen through. She'd been feeling defeated, uncertain, lost, and while the board was full of abundance images, the energy behind it said, "Please fix this. I'm scared." That's what anchored itself into her home. Not the photos, but the panic. In Feng Shui terms, that board became an emotional timestamp sealed into her career zone, repeating the moment her energy collapsed, while asking the universe for wealth. Instead of attracting money, it kept bringing back the feeling of needing it. Jessica didn't realize how much fear she had layered into her wealth vision. She thought she was setting goals, but what she was really doing was trying to bandage a crack in her energy with pretty pictures. And every day she sat beneath that board, her body remembered that moment, the night she made it, holding her breath, asking the universe to please just help. That memory lived in the space, and it replayed every time she glanced up and saw that bold gold word staring back at her: wealth. A word that now felt more like a taunt than a promise. There's a truth in Feng Shui that most people never hear. Your space remembers what you were feeling when you placed each object. And if you fill your home with things meant to bring in wealth and lucky flow, but you place them in moments of fear, frustration, or fatigue, you're not just decorating. You're coding energy into your space. That's why Feng Shui isn't about superstition. It's about energy, memory, and how your money, your motivation, your clarity all quietly follow it. Jessica's journey is just beginning. She's starting to understand that even small things, a waving cat, a dusty photo, a frozen shelf, can quietly block cash flow, creative flow, and life flow. But she's also learning how to listen, to shift, to let her home become a true partner in her quiet rise. And maybe, as you watched, you saw something in your own space too. If this kind of Feng Shui wisdom hits home, if you've ever felt like energy, money, or clarity keeps slipping just out of reach, go ahead and hit like, subscribe to stay in the loop, and drop a comment if one of Jessica's mistakes sounded a little too familiar. It helps this story reach others who are ready to shift too. Next episode? Jessica's journey continues, and what she discovers about her lucky bamboo might surprise you. Let's just say, even the plants we trust to bring fortune can quietly turn energy the wrong way. We'll see you there. Your space speaks. Wisdom listens.